Hey, welcome back to the show. I am Chris, and this is Chris on Tech. And today we're going to talk about just in general internet-y kind of technology. So let's get into it. First up, let's look at McCormick, king of the Spice Isle, and their project with IBM's AI division to create an artificial intelligence to help their product developers create new spice blends. So essentially, McCormick over the last 40 years has been developing all of these spice blends and recipes and things like that, from their mustard line all the way to the spices you see in the spice aisle. And they've kept all of that data. So now they have 40 years of data covering what people like, how things sell by region, all of that stuff. And they have taken that 40 years of data and they have crunched it and sent it to these artificial intelligence programs that IBM has written for them that they can now use to create new spice blends. And apparently they have their product developers have created 4 or 5 recipes with this program that will be in stores by the end of the year. So I look forward to checking that out and seeing how good it is. All Dune spice must flow jokes aside, it's a pretty cool way that you're seeing artificial intelligence and machine automation not replace human beings, but augment them and make them better, which is what we covered in our last episode. Okay, up next, we're going to look at the FCC and their proposed shutdown of the Lifeline subsidy program. So if you aren't familiar with the Lifeline subsidy program, it is a government-funded initiative to help bring and ensure connectivity and access to the most underprivileged and socially and economically depressed areas in this country. And that goes from coast to coast, from inner city to rural areas. But specifically today, we're talking about tribal lands in this country and how the FCC was planning on removing the $25 subsidy that those groups got to ensure that they would have at least decent access to the internet, as well as phone connectivity, so wireless or wired phones. Essentially, the FCC made the argument that removing the subsidy would spur on innovation and investment by broadband companies into these depressed areas, and they did it without providing any data or evidence whatsoever of their argument being true. In fact, all of the data that can be found is the opposite, that removing that subsidy would basically cut off these communities from the internet and the 21st century, if you will, which is a terrible, bad thing. So the courts, in their ruling barring this from going through, cited a number of issues with the FCC's process in this whole area, from the fact that they did not provide any evidence whatsoever that the argument they were making about removing the subsidy had any kind of merit at all. In fact, all of the data that they could find supported the opposite, that removing this subsidy would not spur innovation and investment. It would actually just cut these communities off completely from the internet and the larger world. On top of that, the FCC didn't even follow basic procedures put in place for actions like this, like having a 2-week window for American citizens to respond and share their opinion of doing this, which is foundational to FCC decision making, at least in the past. So for now, it looks like that has been barred, and there's a good chance that it won't go any further. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about a fairly sensitive subject around self-harm and suicide. So if that is something that it would be better for you, viewer, to not be exposed to, I understand. I have left a link in the description to the next article, the final article we're going to talk about in this video, so you can skip this and not have to worry about any ill effects it would have. So do that now, please. Instagram has stated recently that it is going to place self-harm and suicide-related content behind a sensitivity screen or filter so that it won't be something that just pops up in your feed without you actually acknowledging what it is and wanting to see it. This has been spurred on by the unfortunate suicide of a British teen and the large mountain of evidence that links that teen's viewing of self-harm type of content on Instagram and Pinterest to her eventual death. This is a weird one for me. The the terms and conditions and community guidelines of Instagram states that that stuff is not appropriate and should be removed. But after talking to their lawyers and specialists, they've decided to leave it on there because it can help people who are dealing with these things work through their problems and their process, I guess, by seeing other people dealing with it and having conversations around it, which that is, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist, so I can't really speak to whether or not that is a valid decision, but it just seems like with the number of teens and young adults that are accessing this content, that's just whatever good that would create is far outweighed by the harm that it obviously is creating in these people's lives, as evidenced by this unfortunate tragic event where this young British girl killed herself because of what she saw on Instagram and Pinterest. So it's a hard one, and I applaud Instagram for taking it seriously. They have, in the last few years, dealt with this problem. They have allowed you to turn off comments so you don't have to worry about that type of nonsense and the toxic environment that can be created around that, as well as they have created tools for suicide prevention that are available in the app. So in one way, way to go, Instagram, for taking this seriously and doing something, but then really think about cleaning this up and not allowing these things to stay on the platform because of the audience you have and how high risk it is because of their age. Okay, lastly, we're going to look at YouTube and dislike mobs. For those of you who don't know what a dislike mob is, I will break it down for you really quickly here. Essentially, it is when a YouTube personality, say a streamer or someone who has a massive channel and a massive following, decides that they don't like a video or a fellow creator on the platform, and they activate their audience to go and dislike a video or a number of videos on that channel by that creator as much as possible, to throw the dislike to like ratio off so much that the video ceases to be offered up in recommendations. There's no way it'll ever get to the trending page, and it greatly affects the monetary value of that video, how much ad money you make. It's a very serious thing, and it has been weaponized by a number of creators in the past. I mean, just a couple of days ago, I saw a video from some idiot who did this and didn't feel bad about it at all. As a creator on YouTube, I am torn on this. I don't want more censorship and policing in the community in one sense, but having seen the very real consequences of some random person who happens to have a massive following decide they don't like your video and they just come and destroy it for no reason, no actual reason other than Bob said to do this, is a pretty serious thing, and it's endemic of the toxic nature of YouTube that we deal with. The comment section of most YouTube videos is a cesspool, just because of the people that come in there. So it's a very real deal and something that YouTube needs to take seriously, and I think they're really starting to look at it seriously, since they have now the most disliked video ever on YouTube with their rewind for 2018. So hopefully there will be really good movement on this, and they can find a way to fix it without introducing undue overhead and censorship. Okay, that's it for me. I think we're done here. You can just move along. You can go home. But before you do, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down. I won't hold it against you. It's a free internet. All the links for what I talked about are in the description today. And if you have a question or comment about what we talked about in this video, leave it in the comments. If you have a suggestion or a request for an upcoming video for me to cover, go ahead and leave that in the comments too. And until I see you again, have a good day.